Okay, what's up? Welcome to this tutorial, So today's tutorial, we are going to be building a simple app, a website, like this, right? So what you're going to learn here is creating components, right? And then linking those components together and then displaying them on this page here. So, and then we are going to learn again the mapping function to display these albums here. So there's only one component, which is this album here, and then we only create one component and then we map through our data to display it like this. So so that you won't have to keep on writing them manually, or when your data changes you won't have to come here on the website and update it again programmatically. So now actually coding it, hard coding it, so it should just update programmatically with the map function. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so I'm just gonna create a new Vite app. So I prefer using Vite because it has a faster build time for a development server. So I'm just gonna going ahead to create a new project. This is how you create a new project. You can go ahead to the Vite documentation site to learn more about this, and then to learn more about using Vite. So I'm just gonna name the project a tutorial. We are using React. You are using your keyboard keys to navigate and select. So just gonna cd to tutorial and then run npm install to install all the required packages. So Vite only creates a skeleton project without the packages. So now you have to run npm install to install the packages that are required by the bare project. Yeah. So I'm just gonna pause the video until this thing finishes, and then we'll continue. Okay, that was quicker than expected. So to run the project, I run the next command. So it's n. So I'm running the development preview of this project. So now I'm just gonna copy this and open it in the browser, and then this is what you will be presented with. So let me open my VS Code quickly. And then let me rerun the project again. Right. So now my VS Code and the project side by side. So just to make sure it's still linked together, okay? And then yeah, so now we are going to be building our app. So let's first look at how we can build it. So now if we look at it, we can separate it into three large components, right? Okay, there is a header, right, and then the body, and then there is a footer, right? So now we'll have three components: a header, body, and the footer, right? So we will have another main component to actually hold all these components, the footer, the body, inside one component before we export them to our app file. And then we will have this component, right? We'll have the component for the album, and then to display these different albums here. So now let's go back to our project. So a project file structure for Vite is a bit different from create React app. So you can see we have a new file. This is Vite config, and if you notice the index.html file is outside the public folder. You don't have to worry about that though. And then we are going to be focusing on the source file. So we have assets which we don't need. CSS, we can just erase everything from it. Can just erase everything since we're going to need it. And JS folder, and then app.js, we don't need that, don't need this, and then don't need this too. And then the index CSS, we actually don't need it. Then we only need the main, but we have to remove the index CSS since we deleted it. So now this is what you should have, right? So just to see if that is working, so you can see that we are displayed text down. Okay, now if you may notice, Vite uses JSX. I don't know by default or it uses JSS, but there is actually a bit to no difference between JS and JSX. JSX only means that we are, it's a JSX, so we are going to be writing HTML inside a JavaScript file. So we are going to mixing HTML and JavaScript, so that's why it's called JSX. So there's nothing new to learn between JSX and JS. So let's go ahead and create our components, right? And mount them to our app CSS. So if app.js, so let's create our folder for components, and then first components, let's say component will have a main component.jsx, and then another one will have a body. Let me pause. Okay, now we have all our components. So now we want to initialize all of the components. So I'll use a shortcut for this. So it's React arrow functional component export, right? So you can also use this functional components, right? So this is the body, and then React functional component export. I'm just gonna copy this so that I can just paste it on the other files. And then in the main, we want to display the body and all these others. So let's just call them here. So we start with the header, yes. Start with the header, and then we come with the body, okay, with the body, and then we come with the footer, right? So if you are wondering where did I take that shortcut RAFC, this shortcut RFCE, so it's an extension that you have to install. It's called, yes, this one, ES7 plus Redux snippets. So you can see, okay, there are no snippets, but you have to go to their website to view their snippets. So these are some of the snippets that I know by heart. So now we have all these linked here in the main. Now let's export the main and to the app, right? And control save. Now we see header, body, and then the header. My spelling for header is wrong. Let me fix that. Always automatic, yes. And then in the main of the header, and then we have the header. Okay, there's something still wrong here. So now head, in the main of the head, okay, why still displaying like that? I fixed it here, and then let's refresh this. Okay, it is fine. Okay, let's start with our header, right? Let's start with our header. Let's create our header. So now when we look at our header, we see that we have a background color, which is a blue, and then we have this H1 text, and then this P text, and a little bit of space here. Now let's go to our header. You can hold Control and then select, and then in the header, the component that you want to come to, and then it will bring you here. So now you can just do a fragment here, and then actually let's not do a fragment since we want to give it a class name, right? Let's just give it a class name. Let's just say a head. This is the head, and then inside the head we have an H1. We have an H1 that says welcome to my app in React, right? Welcome to my app in React, and then we have a P tag paragraph. So we're gonna say this header is a name. This header is a component, right? So now, as you can see, we have our header, but our text is not centered, and there's too much space here. And then also we need to add the background color. So we're just gonna take our class name here, go to our app CSS, right? So I'm just gonna define a few things here. Not the ID, but let's just say roots. In root, we want to text align center, right? Want to text align center, and then padding 0, margin 0, box sizing, border box, right? And then we can continue with our header, right? Our head. So let's start with the background color, which is blue. I think this blue here, right? And then I think this blue, right? And then maybe we can say padding. I think instead of root, let's use this here. So remove the white spaces around the body of our app. So we can have padding of 20 pixels. So I'm just going to use pixels because this is a simple app. We don't want it to be responsive or anything. I think we need a bit of space between the head, the H1, and the P tag here. So I'm just gonna duplicate this and add an h1, right? On the h1, maybe we want to add a padding, right? So we can add a padding of 15 because this looks so much bigger. So I think we are done with our header. Looks pretty much the same. I think 10. Yeah, 10 is fine. So now let's come to our body. So now we can see on our body that we have this list of albums here, and then we have this text here left aligned. So we are done with our header. We can go ahead and close that, and then come back to our main, and then come to our body. So our body, we can give it a fragment. So just a fragment, and then inside this fragment we can define a div. And then let's give it a class name. Let's say maybe it's a body intro, right? So the text that is left aligned here, we can say it's an intro to our body. So let's go ahead. I think this is an h4. Let's say okay, it says this is the body of my app, right? And then we have a p tag. Sorry, a p tag. What does it say? Okay, I'm just gonna copy that. So it says this is a component. The body is a component. Below is a list of my favorite albums. But if you notice that the text is still centered, but we want it on the left hand side of our body, right? So now we can just copy the class name. I like to separate my styles with comments. So I know that now I'm starting the body style. So now the body intro, we can just say text align to the left or start, right? We can use any. So now if you are wondering why do we need this, or why this text is still centered here, it's because we have this. We're saying everything that is on this page of our app, give it these styles, right? So text align everything to the center, padding 0 and margin 0. So we'll have to define for each and every component that we create on our on our app the styles that we want. So text align to the left. Okay, it's not taking it. So oh, it's because of this. Okay, to the left to start. Okay, let me pause a little bit just to check what is the problem. So div body intro, then the h4 into intro, the intro body intro, right? Text aligned to the start to the left. Okay, let me pause a little bit just to solve that. Okay, sorry about that. So I managed to fix it. So it was taking the styling of everything. of the root styling, so it was keeping the text aligned to the center because of the root. So now I use the app class name, which is provided by the app JSX, I mean. So this class name, so it's there by default when you create an app. So sorry about that. Okay, our text now is left aligned, and then if you notice here, we have a space here, a space here, and a space on the bottom, right? So now we can just, on the body intro, we can do some margin or padding. So let's do margin. So we want margin on the top, so let's say maybe 110 pixels, but we don't want margin on the left and the right hand side of our app. So we just only want that margin on the top. I think 20 pixels is much better. And then we still need a space between this heading text here and this paragraph. So I think this text here is a bit smaller than this one, so let's just go ahead and change that in the body. So let's say it's an H3 instead of an H4, and then you can close this, come back here, so it's a bit bigger now. We can just say because this is the only H4 that we have, I can just target it and give it a margin. So I don't want margin on the left and right hand side, but I want margin of 10 pixels on the top and the bottom, right? Oh, it's an H3, not an H4. H3. So now we have this nice space here. So now we need to create our list here. So now we can go back in this fragment. We can have an ordered list, right? An unordered list. The unordered list will have a list item, right? A list item which have 2 p tags, right? 2 paragraphs. 2 paragraphs, right? 2 paragraphs, and then the first paragraph have a title, and then the second one has a, what we call this, artist, right? So we have these 2 paragraphs, and then a title and an artist, right? So the title is the first title is Starboy, and then the artist is Weekend. Right, now we are only having one item for now. Let me just copy and duplicate this, right? Okay, sorry about that. So this is the easiest way you can do it, but on the long term this is not maintainable. But for now, I'll just show you why I'm saying it's not maintainable. Now we want to give this UL a class name. Let's say album list, right? Let's say now we want to give a class name to these items here. Now we want to say class name. We want this album to be to have its own name, album. Now we have this class name album. So now we have to give every other albums items a class name, right? Which is time consuming, repetitive, and it's not ideal. Imagine if these if this was a list of 1000 albums. So now you would have to do this 1000 times, right? So unless you can just erase every other items and then copy them again, but you would have to still change the artist names, right? So which is not ideal again. So now before we go to a simplest way to do this, let me just style this tool first to look like this. So now let's go to our CSS. We're still on our body. Okay, this is a body intro. Oh, I still have body intro. This is the album, right? And then I can say list. So this is the unordered list. So now we want our album to have a background color, which is blue again, but a different blue, right, from the first one. So we can just say blue, but bit different. Yeah, I think it's too dark. Okay, I made it a bit more dark. Okay, let's work with this for now, and then let's say okay, we need some padding like 20 pixels. That's too big, so like 10. Yeah, it makes sense. So 10. Okay, we need a space between the p tags. So now we can have some space and then remove this background color, and then let's say we just want 5 pixel of space, and then maybe here we can also say 5 since this is adding here. It's fine like this. So now we don't want this edge to edge. Let's say we can just do like a padding of 0 top and bottom, and then maybe we can say 10%, right? Which doesn't work. So let me see if the class name album dash list, yes, which works actually, but you don't want to pad this space, so you don't want to pad this. And then let's firstly remove the dot there. So on the UL we want to list style to none. You can choose multiple list styles that you want here, but I'm gonna stick to none, so we won't have that. So now there's a different way which we can put this space here by controlling the actual list item, right? So we have padding, which is inside, so we can have margin here. So our margin from the top to the bottom, because there is this space here, space, from top to bottom we can say we want 5 pixels. From left and right we can say we want 10%, right? 10%, which is going to split it 5 right? No, 10, yes, which is 20%, which means this list item is taking 80% of the width. So now if you look here, they are a bit round the corners. Here they are sharp, so we can do border radius, let's say 5 pixels. You see the change now, it's nice. And then there is a different way to include this space here. We can say width, which is 80% because it's 2020, and then 80% 2020 there, and then we can say here, okay, we can say here, so this is not centered currently, this space is smaller than this one, and then we can say auto to force it to have equal spaces, right? So now you see it shifted a bit to the left, now we have equal spaces, and then yeah, that's it. So I'm going to stick to this because this one defines the width that we want for this list item, and then yeah, that's it. And then now I think we can go back to our body, this list item, we can duplicate it a bit multiple times. Now we have something like this. Obviously we have to change the names here, and then if you come back to this, you see this text is a bit bolder than this one. So now what we want to do now, we want our title to be bolder. So what we can do for that, we can include a span here, and then a span, and then close it, right? Close it, and then it's not closing the other one. Just gonna copy that, paste it here, and then give them class names, right? You can just say bold text, right? Text, and then come this side, maybe just okay. I'll just take this here and take also this here, right? Format, and then remove this part, add a space here, right? So I want to target this class name and make everything that's inside it a bolder. So on the class name, and then we want to text font weight to be bold, right? If I come back here, it's now bolder. Yeah, it's now bolder. Yeah, it's now bolder. Yeah, and then this text is a little bit not showing nicely. If it was white, you would see it clearly. So let's just say color to be white, right? This is not actually required, so this is just an addition. I can just put a comment here for you. But just to make it a user friendly, easy to read, can just see it there. And then now you see, now I've edited it and then I duplicate it again, which is time consuming and stuff. So let's just hold it here a little bit. Let's deal with the footer. We'll come back to this now. So I stick to that on copying it and creating it again and again, so that you can see why I say that thing. It is time consuming, right? You can notice that. So every time I wanted to change something on the items here, I had to remove the other ones, modify the first one, and then on copy again, and then I'll still have to change these again. So, or I'd have to add the new element that I wanted to add on all of them. So let's look at the footer. So it's just background, which is orange, text inside, and then just a little bit of space. So we can just say a class name here. Our class name is going to be footer, right? So the text is this is a footer component, right? So I can just say this is a footer component, copy the footer class name, and then come back to our website, and then yeah, and then we go to our app CSS, and then sorry about that. Footer styles, right? So footer styles are pretty much simple, right? We just need a background color of orange, which is a little bit darker than this. Yeah, I think this is fine. And then a padding, so we can have 20 pixels padding, not 220, which is a bit bigger, 15, which is a bit almost what we want. So yeah, this is it. So now we are done with the styling, and then this is how it looks on a bigger screen. And then we are done with the styling. Now let's go back to let's go back to our body and fix this problem that we have here. So these list items that we have here, we don't need them. We only need the first one, right? So there's a map function that does that for you, that actually maps the data that you have. So here you are displaying data, the type of data that you are displaying. Okay, what the data is about, it's about the list of your favorite albums. So it's just a list of data. A list of data can be an object or an array, right? So const, so here we are going to be using an array as an example to hold our list of data. So an array in JavaScript is this square brackets, right? So this is our array. So it's like this, right? And then what we can do, we can come here, include this curly braces. What these curly braces does is that they tell the compiler that we want to write JavaScript inside the HTML. You can see this means that we are starting in HTML, but when we open these again, we're saying that we want to write JavaScript. Here you can just write JavaScript anywhere, but immediately when you want to write it inside where you have HTML, you have to include the curly braces. So what do we want to do now here? We want to call our array there, and then we want to say dot what we want to do to this array. We want to map through this array, right? So a map is a function that takes a callback function. I'll just explain that. So you can also read here, it says a function that accepts up to 3 arguments, right? It's a value, what is returning, index, where it is, an array again can return an array of those items if you are returning multiple items. This method function, okay, the map method calls the callback function one time for each element in an array. So every element in an array will be returned by the map function, and then calls a defined callback function on each element on each element of an array and returns an array that contains the results, right? So this is the value, right? And then this is the index where it is, and then this is an array. So it's an array that contains the results, right? So you can pass in arguments here. And then now our map function returns a function, right? So this is the function that it returns, right? Okay, let's take all of this. So I'll explain just in now. So we're saying our array map it, right? So the map function takes a function, right? So it takes a function, right? A function that does something with what it returns. So remember that map returns one element in the array, right? And that element we need to catch it in a function. So we're going to include I here. So this is our going to be, okay, to be more descriptive. Okay, let's say it's an album, right? Since we are going to have an array of albums, a list of albums, so the map function will go through that list, take one list and return it, and then we do something with that list. So this is where we do something with that list. So we want to display that list to the screen, right? So now you may wonder, because we have one list item here, right? We have the list item that we have coded, hard coded it here. Why is it not displaying? That's because we have an empty array, right? Immediately when I input something in the array, it will display this hard coded list item. What if I do 2, right? It displays 2 items in the array, but now it's displaying the same things in the array, right? The same data in the array, in the browser is displaying the same data. So now if I were to have 1,000 of these, it will still display these albums, only this album. So now to solve that, we can access the item that returned from the array. So remember that map function returns one item from the array and we can do something with it. So let's just display the item number. So let's just say we want to display the album, right? So if I save this, so it returns 1 2 3 4. Where does this 1 2 3 4 come from? Is these items here. So it just takes the item and display, takes the item and display, takes the item and display. So now we don't want to do that instead, right? We want to display a list of albums. So we can say our list of albums contains objects. Those objects define the album, right? So we can have a name in the album. So the name of the title, actually. The title, right? So the title is Starboy, right? The title is Starboy, and then we also want the artist, right? We also want the artist. So the artist is Weekend, right? The artist is Weekend. If I save this now, right? If I save this, it won't display anything here. Why? Because it cannot display an object on the screen. So we have to use the dot notation to access something inside an object. So now we have a title and the artist. If I select an artist, it will show Weekend and show nothing on this one. Why? Because we only have numbers there. We don't have an object there, right? So now we would have to duplicate this and then change the names here. So now let's just do that. So 1 2 3, remove you, then we say, and then let's leave it like this. So it's going to be Starboy, and then it's going to be, maybe, I don't know the albums and their artists, so it's going to be some dude coding, maybe like, share, maybe subscribe. This is just the dummy data, right? So if I save this now, you can see it says Weekend, dude, like, subscribe, right? So now it is displaying the artists' names only, right? But we don't want it to display it like this, right? We want to display them here. Instead of this Starboy, we want to display this Starboy. So remember, we told the compiler that we want to go back to JavaScript, right? And then we wrote our JavaScript, and then we ended here, right? And then here we wrote what? Our HTML. So now we are inside HTML again. Now we have to tell it again that here we want to go back to JavaScript. So we want to call the album. What do we want to access from the album? We want to access the title of the album, right? So we're going to say album.title. That's the syntax of accessing something from an object. So we want an artist this side. So if I control save this now, see Starboy, Weekend, Some, Dude, Coding, Like, Share, Subscribe. So these are the names of the artists, right? And then these are the titles. So if you were to add these unlimited, it will just do it for you, right? So obviously you will have different album names, artists, and all that. So now this is more maintainable, scalable, right? It's easier, right? When you want to modify this album, and then let's say you wanted to add the number of the album, so you will have just to modify here. Let's just say so now you want to add what's the ranking of the albums? It's number 1, number 2, number 3. So remember the map returns a function that can take index, right? So before I do that, let me show you again. So now this is the actual data. Then we have the index. So we have the value. The value can be a title or an artist, right? And then it's an object of a title and an artist. Then we have an index which returns a number. So we can just say rank maybe. So what does the album rank, right? So let's input rank here. Instead of writing rank in all the list items, this will automatically write the ranking for us. So it says 0, 1, 2, 3. So remember the indexed encoding, generally in coding, general programming languages, starts at 0. So we can always add 1 to this, right? So it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It ranks number 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5. So maybe you wanted to include a hashtag. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But this is not a part of the tutorial. I was just showing you how to use the other value you can get from the map function, right? So this is it. Yeah. So again, you can even make this code cleaner. You can see now it's how many lines? 47 lines. You can also take all of this, right, and write it here. And then let's say it's an album. It's an album, right? This function is an album which returns. So what are we doing now? We are creating a component, right? So this component will take two things there. Just going to destructure it, and then let's say it's a artist and then a title, and then a title. Instead of having this album here, and then just title and album, right? And then instead of writing all this here, we can just remove it. We just call our album component, and then we close it. We just pass this artist. The artist is album dot artist, right? And then the what is this? Title, right? Is equals to album dot title. Control save, gets the same result, right? So but the thing is that React under the hood is actually there is actually a warning, right? So it says that okay, so it says that okay. Okay, this is not actually what I wanted. So there's an usually you have to pass a key for each item because I'm mapping through these things, right? So they are all a list item, but React will want a way to identify which item are we talking about. If you were to change here some to only change that, so now instead of React updating this only object, which is this list item, React will actually re-render all of them because it doesn't know which one has its value changed, right? So to make it easy for React to understand that, we have to pass a key here. So a key, we can, because we won't have same album names, right? Album titles. You can pass in the album title as a key, but I prefer using the index number as a key, and the index number as a key. So you can say index number as a key. Now React, if you were to update something here, React will only update that thing because now it knows its key. Which one am I going to update, right? So it won't have to re-render everything. So yeah, that's it for this video. It's pretty much long, and then thank you. Please like, subscribe, and the link for this tutorial, it's on the description. You can view the GitHub, you can clone it, and then you can test it, play around with it, and just to learn more. And then obviously this now is 53 lines. You can also cut this from here, create a new component, call it album, and then yeah, that's it. Come back to your body, come here, you have to import it. You have to import album from, let's import from album, right? So we're importing album from album. This is a component in the same page, so we are not exporting it here. Let's try to refresh. So it's working now, so we have much cleaner code now. So yeah, this data you can also export it to some file, but I won't do that since this video is pretty much long for what you are learning. Thank you. Please like, subscribe, and comment, share. Also comment what tutorial you would want me to do, or just send me an email, maybe with your question, and then I'll try to make a video out of it and answer it as soon as I can. Also, you can also send the deadline when you actually want it, so that I can answer them more, the questions according to when they are needed actually. So thank you again. Please like, subscribe, share, and just be nice again. Live life.